Welcome back to Heart of the Guardians, the place where legends ride again and forgotten stories echo across the dusty plains. If you love tales that carry the scent of old whiskey, saddle leather, and the sound of spurs on wooden floors, then settle in, partner, because today we've got a story that's as wild and strange as the West itself. It's a tale about pride, revenge, and a pair of missing pants that set an entire town on fire with laughter and fear alike. So pour yourself a cup of coffee, take a seat by the fire, and listen close to the wind. It's whispering, "Please help me, cowboy, they stole my clothes." The sun was just rising over the town of Dust Creek when everything went wrong for poor Eli Tanner. He was the kind of man who always said he'd seen it all, from rattlesnake bites to poker fights, but that morning, standing bare as a newborn in the middle of a dry creek bed, he realized there were still some surprises left in this cruel and ridiculous world. The air was cold enough to make a man curse his own shadow, and the only thing louder than the wind was Eli's temper. "Now this here just ain't right," he muttered through chattering teeth, looking around for any sign of his clothes. His horse, a lazy brown mare named Clementine, stared at him with what seemed to be pity, or maybe amusement. "Don't you look at me like that," Eli snapped. "You think this is funny, do ya? Well, I'll have you know, Clementine, I'm the victim here." Clementine snorted and flicked her tail as if to agree. Somewhere nearby, a cactus wren chirped, and the sound felt like laughter echoing through the canyon. Eli tried to remember how he'd ended up in this mess. The last thing he recalled was playing poker at the Rusty Spur Saloon. He'd had a good hand, better than good. He'd been ready to clean out Big Jack McGraw and his band of outlaws once and for all. But then there'd been that strange man, the one with the gold tooth and the grin too wide for his face. He'd whispered something about luck being a tricky lady and offered Eli a drink, on the house. The next thing Eli knew, he'd woken up without a stitch on, lying in the middle of the desert like a tumbleweed with a hangover. "Well, ain't that just perfect," he grumbled. "They didn't just cheat me out of my money, they took the whole damn wardrobe too." He looked down the road that led back to Dust Creek. The town was only a few miles away, but walking back there in his birthday suit wasn't exactly appealing. Folks around Dust Creek had long memories and even longer tongues, and news of a naked cowboy wandering home would spread faster than a prairie fire in a windstorm. Still, a man's got to do what a man's got to do. He took a deep breath, puffed out his chest, and started walking. The sand burned his feet, the sun was climbing fast, and the occasional gust of wind didn't do much to preserve what little dignity he had left. By the time he reached the outskirts of town, his mouth was dry as a tombstone, and his patience was gone entirely. He crouched behind an old water trough near the blacksmith's shop, peeking around the corner to make sure no one was watching. The main street was busy, too busy. A wagon rolled by carrying hay, a few kids chased a dog down the road, and Miss Lillian, the saloon singer, was sweeping the steps in front of the Rusty Spur, her dress shining red in the sunlight like a drop of sin. Eli groaned. If she saw him like this, he'd never live it down. "Clementine," he whispered to his horse, who had followed at a lazy distance, "we're gonna need a plan." The mare blinked and stamped her hoof, unimpressed. Eli scanned the alley and spotted a clothesline hanging between two buildings. On it were a pair of pants, a white shirt, and something that looked suspiciously like a frilly pink petticoat. "Beggars can't be choosers," he thought, and started crawling toward it. He'd almost made it when he heard a voice behind him. "Now ain't that a sight for sore eyes," drawled a man. Eli froze. Slowly, he turned around to see Sheriff Amos standing there, arms crossed, mustache twitching with amusement. "Eli Tanner," the sheriff said, "you mind tellin' me why you're sneakin' around the alley in broad daylight without a stitch on?" Eli sighed. "Sheriff, I can explain." "I'd hope so," said Amos. "Because right now it looks like you've gone and lost a duel with common sense." "They stole my clothes," Eli said, pointing down the road. "Them no good varmints from the poker table. Big Jack and his boys. Took everything I owned while I was out cold." Amos scratched his chin. "And you figure they just up and decided to make off with your britches for fun?" "Wouldn't put it past him. Big Jack's got a twisted sense of humor." The sheriff chuckled. "Well, I ain't sayin' I don't believe you, Eli. But next time, try losin' your money instead of your dignity. Come on, I'll see if I can find you some spare duds before Miss Lillian faints from shock." They sneaked around the back of the sheriff's office, and Amos tossed him a dusty pair of trousers and a worn shirt. Eli dressed in record time, though the pants were too short and the shirt smelled like old tobacco. "Much obliged," he said. Amos leaned against the doorframe. "You plannin' on getting even with him?" Eli's eyes narrowed. "You bet your badge I am. Nobody strips me naked and walks away laughing." "Well, if you're fixin' to do something stupid, at least do it after supper," the sheriff said. "I'll pretend I didn't see nothin'." That evening, the Rusty Spur was alive with music and the smell of whiskey. Eli pushed open the saloon doors, his jaw set. Big Jack McGraw sat at the poker table just like before, laughing loud enough to shake the rafters. His gang was there too, Slim, Dusty, and the gold-toothed stranger, all grinning like devils. When they saw Eli, their laughter grew louder. "Well, look who's back," said Big Jack. "Thought you'd gone and joined the nudist colony out yonder." Eli slammed his hand on the table. "You boys think this is funny, do ya? You humiliated me." Big Jack leaned back, sipping his drink. "Now, Eli, ain't no need to get your drawers in a twist. We just figured you needed some fresh air." The saloon erupted in laughter again. Eli's hands curled into fists. "You got something that belongs to me. My clothes, my boots, and my lucky silver buckle. You're gonna give 'em back. Or what?" sneered Slim. "You gonna challenge us? You ain't even wearing your own pants." Eli took a step forward. "Fine, how about a rematch? Poker. Just you and me, Jack. Winner takes all. You win, I'll walk out of here with nothing but my pride again. I win, you return every last thing you stole." Jack chuckled. "You sure you wanna gamble with luck, Eli? Last time didn't go so well for ya." "Maybe not," said Eli, sitting down. "But I've learned something about luck, it don't like being laughed at." The room went quiet except for the shuffle of cards. Miss Lillian stopped singing and leaned on the bar, watching. The sheriff had taken a seat in the corner, eyes sharp but silent. The game began. 1 hand, 2 hands, 3. Eli kept his cool, remembering every tell, every twitch of Jack's fingers. Then came the final deal. Eli's heart pounded as he looked at his cards, 3 kings and 2 aces. A full house. Jack smiled, showing that cursed gold tooth. "Well now, I reckon I got ya beat, Cowboy," he said, laying down his cards, 4 queens. The crowd gasped. Eli stared, his stomach sinking. Then the gold-toothed stranger coughed. "Funny thing," he said softly, "I seen that queen fall right out of your sleeve, Jack." The room froze. Big Jack's grin vanished. "You watch your tongue," he growled. Amos stood. "You heard the man, Jack. Looks like you've been cheatin'." Eli rose slowly, eyes blazing. "Guess the joke's on you this time." Jack went for his gun, but Eli was faster. The shot rang out like thunder. Jack's pistol flew from his hand, clattering across the floor. The sheriff grabbed him before he could reach for another. The crowd erupted in cheers and shouts. Eli walked over and snatched his silver buckle from the table. "I believe this is mine," he said. Then, turning to the stranger, he tipped his hat. "Much obliged, friend." The man grinned, flashing that gold tooth again. "Just call it even, Cowboy. You gave me a good show." By dawn, the story had spread through Dust Creek like wildfire. Some said Eli had faced down 10 outlaws single-handed. Others swore he'd wrestled a coyote while naked. Either way, everyone agreed on one thing: Eli Tanner had gotten the last laugh. Later that morning, Miss Lillian found him outside the saloon, sitting on the porch with Clementine by his side. "So," she said, "you got your clothes back." "Sure did," said Eli. "And a lesson too." "Oh. And what's that?" "That a man can lose his shirt, his pants, and his pride, but as long as he's got the guts to face the world, he ain't truly naked." She smiled. "That's mighty poetic for a man who once tried to outdrink a cactus." Eli grinned. "Well, I've had time to think. Nothing like a morning breeze to clear your head." From across the street, the sheriff called out, "Tanner. You cause any more ruckus and I'll have you clean in the jail cells for a week." Eli waved. "You got it, Sheriff. I'm done with trouble, for now." As he watched the sun rise over Dust Creek, Eli couldn't help but laugh. The town would never let him forget the day they found him naked as a jaybird, but that was fine by him. After all, legends weren't born from comfort, they were born from chaos, laughter, and a little bit of shame. He looked at Clementine, who gave a snort as if agreeing. What do you say, girl? Ready for another adventure? The horse whinnied. Eli climbed into the saddle, adjusting his hat. Then let's ride. The wind carried the sound of his laughter as they rode off into the horizon, the desert stretching wide and endless before them. Somewhere behind him, the town of Dust Creek returned to its usual rhythm, but the story of the naked cowboy would live on. Told in whispers, shouted over whiskey, and sung in the saloon by Miss Lillian for years to come. And if you ever find yourself in Dust Creek, and someone starts a tale with, "Please help me, cowboy," you'll know exactly where it came from. This is Heart of the Guardians, where every story finds its voice and every legend finds its heart. Thanks for riding with us today, partner. Don't forget to tip your hat, hit that subscribe button, and meet us back here on the next trail. Until then, keep your boots clean, your whiskey strong, and your clothes right where they belong.